Welcome into Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. Fun show on tap for everyone today. We talk about Terron Armstead because he had something to say about Tua Tagovailoa, but maybe the main reason why you clicked on today's video is because of Connor Williams. We'll get into him in just a second, but make sure you help me out by helping yourself out because you can share the video to more Dolphins friends and fans and really spread the word of Dolphins Today, which helps us grow and then which gets us more content for you guys. So click share button, select Twitter or X, click post to Twitter, and then if you do share it on Twitter and tag me at Nic_Rohloff, I will retweet it, but I am also following the first 10 people to share the video and tag me in it back on Twitter. So if you want to follow from your boy, go out and share the video and then tag me. All right, let's get into Connor Williams now because is there a potential to bring him back to the 305? I didn't expect Connor Williams to be ready until halfway through the season, but Adam Schefter had an intriguing note about him being ready for the upcoming season. The starting offensive line, it's pretty clear that there needs to be at least some type of adjustment to the right guard spot. You like your two bookend tackles of Terron Armstead and Austin Jackson. Isaiah Wynn is fine, and then you signed Aaron Brewer to be your starting center after Connor Williams got hurt as a 3-year deal. But Robert Jones, Jack Driscoll, Liam Eichenberg, and Lester Cotton are all fighting to be that starting right guard spot, and those four names don't provide me or probably any of you with confidence in that position. And that is the only spot on the entire roster that is really still a concern, right? Like, you look at almost every starting position everywhere else, and you feel, I feel pretty confident about that. Right guard is the only one that's not, which not every roster is going to be perfect, and if there's only one position where you feel skeptical about it, it's probably a good thing. But if you want to create the best roster you possibly can, maybe Chris Grier has to take a look at re-signing Connor Williams in free agency. So you be Chris Grier for me. Would you re-sign Connor Williams? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Played for the Dolphins for 2 years, was solid at center before his injury last year. Let me know down below. I mentioned how solid he has been, and he really was good for the Dolphins over a year and a half. We always talked about, and specifically my good friend Will Scott, about how bad he was at snapping the actual football. But there is no denying how well he actually performed in the blocking game, right? PFF graded him very high in terms of overall grade, an insane run blocking grade, and a pretty above average pass blocking grade as well. I mean, only allowing 4 sacks through 1.5 seasons for the Dolphins. Yeah, I think you would take that. So to me, it's someone that we know is productive. He knows the scheme. He knows the Mike McDaniel offense and would be able to fit in flawlessly at that right guard spot. And I'm not concerned, by the way, about the switch to right guard. Because obviously Dolphins fans only know him as a center where he played about 1,500 snaps. But prior to coming to Miami, he was a left guard for the Dallas Cowboys. So it would be a pretty seamless transition back to that guard spot, only going to the right side. And if you were concerned, like, hey, we don't want him to go to right guard, well, then you can play him at left guard and move Isaiah Wynn to right guard. To me, it shows the versatility, and I wouldn't classify him as a guard. I wouldn't classify him as a center. He's an interior offensive lineman that can play all 3 spots on the interior, and that is why he would probably be your starting right guard if he truly was ready to go for the week 1 of the NFL season. But the main question that we have to ask is, how much does he command in free agency? The Adam Schefter tweet that let everyone know he was going to be ready for week 1 of the season, allegedly, also mentioned that there was multiple teams he's already been talking to, and they're likely contenders. Maybe Miami is one of those, because Miami's a contender. They probably stayed in constant communication with Williams and Drew Rosenhaus, who is his agent. It's just an intriguing thing, because with the Dolphins making so many moves and having to do a Tua extension, maybe a Javon Holland extension, they might not have the most money to spend on Williams. And after a pretty substantial injury, will he get close to the vet min? Will he get 8 to 10 mil for 1 year? Like, that's the large question here, because if it's closer to the vet min portion, probably not going to be that, but like 4 or 5 million, well, then the Dolphins can afford that. But if it gets up to 8, 9, 10 million because there's a bidding war between teams and contenders that want to build up their interior offensive line, Miami likely can't afford that unless they restructure other contracts to bring them in for 1 season. That's the thing that we'll have to keep our eye on out for the rest of the offseason. But I'll say this, Dolphins fans, and I think you guys can basically see that if you haven't subscribed already. The Dolphins have made a lot of moves this offseason, and over the last week with Calais Campbell and Marcus May, we broke those down faster than anyone else on YouTube. I even had to step away from a company outing at a bar to film the Calais Campbell video. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because if anything happens around the Fins, we're going to have you covered. All right. Left tackle Terron Armstead spoke out about Tua Tagovailoa and his contract situation this morning on the Ross Tucker podcast, and I thought it was pretty intriguing, and I wanted to talk about Armstead and Tua for a little bit to end today's show. Armstead specifically said on Tua, "That's my little brother. He's going to be one of the highest paid ever. He's an elite quarterback. He's one of the top guys in the league. He's able to do things that very few on earth can." And my first initial reaction to this is that one thing is abundantly clear, and I said this during mandatory minicamp when Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle spoke out about the Tua contract situation. The support Tua receives from his teammates just show me and show you really how much they like playing the guy and how good of a teammate he is. Like, I understand when Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle talk, they're talking about their quarterback. But you get multiple people now speaking on Tua's behalf, advocating for him to be paid the correct amount of money by this Dolphins organization. They're not calling out Chris Grier or anything like that. They're just supporting their guy. And to me, that just shows how good of a leader Tua is and how the players on the Dolphins roster have faith in Tagovailoa to lead them into the postseason and go to try to get a playoff win for the first time in a long time this upcoming year. But let's transition into a conversation about Terron Armstead, because we've talked about Tua in depth, but we haven't talked about Armstead, because there is a realistic possibility where he retires after 2024. I mean, he contemplated retiring after last season, ultimately returned. There's still 3 years left on his deal, but Armstead slots in to be your starting left tackle. And obviously, there has to be contingencies made if he does retire, which we'll talk about in just a second. But him possibly playing out his final year, like, he wants to go out on top, obviously, former New Orleans Saint, and he is a good leader for this team currently. It's time to predict it, though, and I'll have one more final word on the situation coming up after this question. But will Terron Armstead retire after this season? Thought about it after last year. Type R for retire or type W for won't. I will say he's going to retire. I actually do believe Armstead will call it quits after this season. I'm not gonna be upset with him for doing that or anything like that. Like, he's had a long career. He's had a lot of injuries. He's playing one more season. But the thing that I want to talk about here to wrap up the show is that this is why you drafted Patrick Paul. Some question the selection by the Miami Dolphins to go left tackle or offensive tackle with pick 55 in the second round. I understand the questions at the time because that pick is not going to impact this year's team. And a lot of people wanted to draft a rookie in the second round that could potentially help the 2024 squad win a championship or advance far into the playoffs. But you need to think long-term as well. Patrick Paul, who I am very high on, I believe can be one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL when he develops and gets to his prime. He's getting to learn under Terron Armstead, getting him to learn alongside Austin Jackson. Paul is going to be able to learn from the best, and then when Armstead likely retires after this year, at least in my opinion, Patrick Paul can slot in there and be your starting left tackle for the next 7 to 8 years. Fingers crossed. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Like we mentioned off the top, help me out, share today's video. First 10 shares get a follow. And if you haven't already, you can tag me and follow me as well so we can go follow for follow at Nic_Rohloff, the handle. We'll have a video again tomorrow because we do every day. See you, Dolphins fans. Go Fins.